Hello. Alright, I'm coming. Where are you at?
Oh, which side?
I'm not ready for now. Go ahead. Go.
This meeting right now, anyways. Got it. It's a little soggy for you. Was. Got faster. Okay. And when I got it, it was slow. But no. And then I either got used to it or I got faster. Probably both. Probably both, yeah. But it was definitely buggy. That's for sure. I was like, my old computer's faster. Why? So what's
Yeah.
It works though. My old computer has 5 gigabytes of RAM. Not really, but that's a big number. 5.
Oh, you're fine. Epidemic. It just spread so far.
You're saying epidemic as if it's a bad thing. Can't throw shade in the one.
You guys might have to record you guys for practice. I won't publish everything, I just run.
That's what
Or do you do a question on it?
And always
Is there like a-
doing shit.
That thing? Yeah, it's on, like, it's like right in my eyes.
Oh, I think that's the button over there.
Well, that would be annoying.
Okay, and then. You told me
Yeah,
what you
there you
tried.
go. One more time, do it again.
There we go.
MVP. Tall. 30 speed. Definitely. Does that matter?
Man, we have another ticket.
Reading Prolonging the Drug War Back and
Something
drug
contingency.
policy.
Yeah, probably.
Really interesting because I just prepped reasons of impact rates to drug war. That's
And break contingency. You said research.
I said it breaks.
Oh. No, actually.
Yeah, that's the role of the judge.
How about no?
That's
Is the one I see.
Sit down.
You can have all the paper you want.
How's the baby brother's hair?
Hey, Ben. Eat shit.
You eat shit.
I thought you were talking about.
Everyone ready? Mark out there?
Should be. Go for it.
Contention 1 is framing. The first argument is that you should evaluate all definitions of the resolution contextually. We think that SIU knows what it means for the United States to withdraw support from the merit initiative. The second argument, you should evaluate around through context and benefit for review the plan versus the opportunity cost of the plan. And the most vote on the best policy option. Observation to the back or contention to the background. The first argument is that the merit initiative is a partnership with Mexico to fight the organized crime. Along the board, the United States has committed billions of dollars to arming police officers in the region in order to combat organized crime and combat corruption in Mexico. The second argument is that Congress has also appropriated $2.3 billion since the initiative began in 2008 and has resulted in the deployment of thousands of military personnel along the board. Thus the plan. It's the resolution. The United States should withdraw support for the Merida Initiative. Again, the United States should withdraw support for the Merida Initiative. It's the resolution.
Okay, fine.
Like,
You had paper, I would take it.
surely you know the rest. Advantage 1 is police militarization. The agency points that the Merida Initiative militarized police forces in Mexico. The first represented in 2013, President Obama championed his policy in Mexico, but was called by 145 civil rights organizations for militarizing police forces in an effort to combat organized crimes, an indication that the United States is not being perceived as combating human rights in the status quo. The second argument says Central America and Mexico used the framework from the Plan Colombia and dedicated $8 billion. It was an $8 billion program that saw an increase in deployment of military troops that displaced 5.7 million individuals, as well as resulted in thousands of extrajudicial killings, an indication that it has basically halted the rule of law in the region, and the sovereign basically has the ability to do whatever they want to these individuals who are deemed narco terrorists. The third argument is that Operation Fast and Furious was a program in 2009 to 2011 where the United States gave weapons gave illegal weapons into the weapons trade game to try and track those weapons to try and combat the cartels in the region. But we only have 20% knowledge of where those guns actually are. A larger indication that the United States has been wildly incapable of actually resolving the drug war and resolving the cartel violence in the status quo. The visa point is the links. The first argument that the plan withdraws support for the Merit Initiative means we no longer support the initiative. Obviously, I think that's fairly intuitive. The second argument, this leads to a decrease in funding for militarized policy in Mexico and then Latin America, means that the United States is no longer dedicating billions of dollars to the funding of police militarization, and this is probably a good thing, because the point is the impacts. The first is the literal war on drugs. This argument is that the affirmative makes it more difficult to to actually complete and prolong the war on drugs, an indication that we would ultimately wage a war on people who are not white just because we think that they are carrying drugs, just because we are afraid of the violence they might commit on the white body. So, the second argument, though, this is literally the interlink to all acts of violence arguments. Whenever we can criminalize someone for their skin color or for their ethnic origin, we can literally justify anything else against them, including the complete eradication of their race. The second argument is the second impact is fear. The first argument is that these individuals no longer have to fear protection. The first argument is that the current militarization framework puts focus into police officer on not necessarily protecting and serving, but instilling fear to the populace to create a fear of police officers so that individuals are more afraid to cross police officers. This second argument, this also results in the police forces viewing citizens as enemies, not as individuals worth serving and protecting, an indication that they literally declare war on the population. The third argument, this also results in inevitable violence against individuals, because police officers are no longer trying to protect. They literally view themselves as living in a war zone and fighting in a war zone, which we think is not good. What's up?
Will you defend the theatrical implementation of the plan, and if not, what do you defend?
What do you think, man?
Yes.
Just checking.
Yeah. Advantage 2. The ACE point is that the United States is currently funding money, tech, and intelligence into Mexico to try and provide a check on cartels in Mexico. But this is only an increase in corruption in the region. The first argument is that an international transparency index called Transparency International ranked Mexico on corruption for the first time since 2002, and Mexico in 2002 was ranked 57 out of 143 countries. And now after the passing of the Merit Initiative by the United States, they dropped 40 spots, and now ranked over 100, which means that they are very, very corrupt in the status quo. There's an indication that since the Merit Initiative, they have moved and become more corrupt. This is an indication that corruption is rapidly on the increase in the status quo. The second argument, that Transparency International also ranked Mexico 26 out of 28 on the bribery index, which indicates that Mexican officials are the most likely to accept bribes in the entire world, an indication that they literally are in the pockets of the cartels, and anything the United States tries to do to combat cartels in the region, the Mexican officials will just feed back to the cartels, means that nothing the U.S. is doing in the status quo will be able to solve. The third argument has also been increasing year by year, that every time the Transparency International ranks Mexico, it has gotten worse, an indication that the impacts of the affirmative are inevitable in the status quo, specifically disadvantage. Our argument is that in a world where we do not withdraw from the Merit Initiative, we will continue to funnel technology and money into the Mexican officials' pockets. They will just continue to give those benefits to the cartels, means the United States the status quo is never able to resolve. The affirmative, the supports the plan solves. The first argument is that the affirmative means that we are no longer giving money or technology because we're not supporting the initiative. Again, fairly intuitive. The second argument there is no lack of interoperability means that the corrupt officials will no longer be informing the cartels because they're no longer receiving any sort of technology or intelligence from the United States, which means that lack of interoperability precludes the ability for Mexican officials to act corrupt and take bribes. The CISA point is that an increase in bribery and a continuation of status quo politics leads to instability and diaspora, which collapses the Mexican economy. The first argument is that the current conflict has already displaced 50 to 100,000 people, and that many people have also died in the last 7 years, and 250,000 individuals have migrated. You can look at Syria for why this is not a good thing for local economies in a world where hundreds of thousands of individuals are leaving the area that collapses local economies because literally jobs stop getting built and things stop being produced. Means that the economy inevitably collapses. The second argument is that Mexico is critical to the U.S. economy because of the ways in which it actually local corridor between North and South America. There are a couple of warrants. The first is that Mexico is key to the United States because of trade agreements like NAFTA, as well as their relationship with Canada. And the world where the Mexican economy is collapsing means that NAFTA falls apart, and the United States loses free trade agreements with other nations that are also part of that. Also prove that agreement. The second argument is that Mexican is the linchpin of trade between North and South America, and the world where the Mexican economy is collapsing, and the United States is no longer able to trade with it. Means the United States is not going to be able to get access to cheap goods and products. Means that the U.S. economy inevitably collapses. The third argument, the collapse of the U.S. economy is pretty terrible in a world where they are no longer being able to when a world where they don't get access to cheap goods means that commodity markets literally collapse because there's no way for us to actually trade those commodities. Things become too expensive. Individuals stop buying things because things are getting too expensive, and so businesses go to things like cash hoarding and stop spending money. This collapses the value of the U.S. dollar, which in turn collapses international trade because international trade is conducted via the U.S. dollar. This collapses the international economy, which all inevitably resource wars because there's no other way to buy resources, so you have to use nuclear option to get ahead of your opponents, which causes extinction and genome mutation.
It's too often in case in order.
Are either of them a critique?
No.
Case in order, you said. Sorry.
Yes. Everyone good? The first is that drug treatment. The ACE point is unique. This Meridon initiative is supporting drug treatment courts right now in the status quo. We say this is prize an alternative to incarceration. The second argument is that these drug courts are the most effective means of justice intervention for treatment because it allows addicted persons to be able to go to the court. We say that this decreases drug use and addresses it as a medical issue rather than just throwing people in jail. The third argument is that present drug treatment courts are drowned out because of the larger focus of the war on drugs. Per the affirmative, we say that this is something that is seen as being fought rather than an issue of public health. We say that this is why the war on drugs is ineffective because we find something to fight rather than treating the initial cause of the problem. But the beast points links the first that the plan withdraws all of the Meridon issue. We say that would include the drug treatment courts because that is a component of the Meridon initiative according to the State Department. But also we say that this shifts tactic from existing on the war on drugs to just people with guns and cops parading the area. We say that this is bad. The second argument is that this absent U.S. funding and support, the drug courts necessarily collapse. We say this is true because the Mexican government is fighting, but also they're uniquely overstretched. They do not have the capability or the economic stability to be able to solve for this. These points, the interlinks. The first, that Duke University, in combination with the U.S. Department of State, indicates that these courts and President of the Meridon Initiative are used as a test case to see the effectiveness of the drug courts. We say that the plan would result in an admission that the test failed. This is a terrible idea. But the second argument is this means that we revert back to using the gun for police brutality that the 1AC isolates, which means that we'd be able to capture all the impacts of things just like drug dogs flying around. Also, cops of police brutality. The third argument is this means the plan renders the root cause inevitably because the root cause is the way in which we frame the issue. It is not an issue of criminality, rather an issue of public health as to whether or not people are seen as addicts. We say that this is fighting a medical issue with cops, not with treatment or medicine. We say that the plan refocuses any opportunity to be able to stop that. The decent point is the impacts first that the war on drugs is bad. You can cross by the impacts of the affirmative, but also we say the cartels kill impacts such as sexual violence, beheading, which we say are long-term impacts that go beyond the impacts of economic collapse. The second argument is you prioritize systemic impacts for a couple of reasons. The first is that they are ongoing. The second is they are verifiable. People are dying in the status quo, but also these means there's an increased possibility of impacts over the third. But the third is that this is an ethical responsibility to endorse a pragmatic policy that helps people in EU as ethical policymakers should not just say it's okay to throw people in jail because they have an addiction, but rather you should vote for a policy that endorses a restructuring of our relationship to people with addictions. Counterclaim. The United States should withdraw support for the Merida Initiative with the exception of its support for the establishment of the drug treatment courts which have been established across Mexico to provide alternatives to incarceration for drug abusers. The United States should withdraw support for the Merida Initiative with the exception of its support for the establishment of the drug treatment courts which have been established across Mexico to provide alternatives to incarceration for drug abusers.
What is the status?
Unconditional. SIU. These points competition, the first is that doesn't link to disadvantage, but the second is mutually exclusive. You cannot do all of the Merida Initiative and then exclude the same part of it. But the peace point is solvency. The first argument is solves 100% of the affirmative. None of their solvency is predicated on this provision. Listen to the rhetoric of the 1AC. There's not an argument in the 1AC that indicates that the drug treatment courts are a necessary component of the affirmative. But also we say that we still allow for the prosecution. Also we say we still allow for the impacts of the affirmative to be resolved because we don't allow for the prosecution or the war on drugs to continue. But also we say the second solvency argument is that this is a unique restructuring of the U.S. drug policy in Mexico to allow for a unique changing of our interpretation of how we interact with people. The next going to be advantage to counterclaim. The first is that we reframe drug violence as a public health issue rather than a criminal issue. We say this changes our relationship to the drug market. Also changes the way in which we view drug issues. Felons are we see felons in the status quo is not part of society. They are stripped of their right to vote. In the U.S. we say that is uniquely bad impact because we say that this would allow for the Mexican government to test the efficacy of this policy. But the second is that this would allow for a more effective Mexican government to respond actively to all of the corruption of the 1AC solves, which means that we solve the entirety of the affirmative better than it does. It costs 250,000 pesos per year to incarcerate an individual in Mexico. It only costs 25,000 to put them in drug treatment. We solve for the entirety of economic class better than they do. This is 10 times more effectively. Also able to solve for corruption because we decrease that because guess what? The Mexican government can do things now. The first thing is that the act resulted in increased incarceration in Mexico because the drug cartels. We say that this is true because in a world in which the abusers are seen as a unique target by the drug cartels to go and allow them to be things like mules for operations, and they are uniquely targeted, which leads to things like human rights abuses, but also leads to disposability of these people because the cartels can just say no, you're no longer valuable to our position anymore, which means that you should decide. But the second argument is that this leads to the perception that
So who gets the money for your drug treatment courts and initiatives? Who gets that money in Mexico?
Like who institutes it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the U.S. and Mexico working together to establish.
No, I mean my question, I guess. I'm sorry. Who in Mexico actually implements those drug treatment policies?
It's the Mexican government with the oversight of the U.S.
Cool.
The second is that this leads to the perception of the cartels that the U.S. is completely withdrawing, which means that there's not a focus on the cartels. We say that this causes a unique increase. We say that the counterclaim it does link to this impact because the counterclaim refocuses the perception of the ways in which we enact drug policy. We also say that the third impact is that this would encourage abusers to go to terrorist organizations because because of the fear of incarceration in the status quo. We say that groups such as Al Qaeda and Al-Nusra are working with cartels right now in the status quo, which indicates the propensity for this impact is high. But we say that there are a couple. The first that we have all things to the affirmative. The first looks like a complete drawback. We say that the counterclaim is a necessary reform, which doesn't link to this argument. But the fact that it looks like a drawback is important because it indicates the cartels need to amp up their ammunition to be able to gain more control, which means they're usually targeting these individuals. The second is that there's increased ability for them to target these individuals. This leads to a couple of impacts. First, that this increases the propensity for a terrorist strike in places such as Los Angeles. We say that these terrorist organizations have already garnered nuclear material, but also we say that you only need the size of a grapefruit to be able to enact a terrorist strike that couldn't have possibly taken out. So you say that this is that impact is going to kill hundreds of millions of people instantly, but also it leads to things such as Directive 17 that requires the U.S. to get involved. If there is a strike on the U.S., which indicates that this would lead to a nuclear war, where the U.S. is being involved in nuclear weapons it causes, because it blocks out some plants and animals can't live anymore. That's fine. Event one. The first, that the counterclaim is able to resolve 100% of this advantage. Look at the flow, gut check this argument in the MG. There's not an answer as to why the drug courts are necessarily a key component for this. They will go for an argument that says that Mexican government is still with corruption, but our argument is that one, it has direct oversight of the U.S., but two, is that this is a test case that is being involved in that's not an option because they're just simply thrown in jail. Also, we say this solves the terminal impact. We say this solves the terminal impact to the dishab because we stop not only the perception of the war on drugs, but also we stop the root cause of it. That is the analysis on the dishab. We say that you can't solve the advantage if you don't solve the root cause. Anything else there? Corruption. You say that funneling money, that the cartels are that the U.S. government's funneling money to the cartels right now. We say that the counterplan is the only way to resolve that issue because the only way cartels gain power right now is by targeting abusers to be able to gain their movement because they're a unique target. By the cartels also say you don't solve for economic class because imprisonment uniquely costs like almost 10 times more than it does to treat a person, which means that economic class is only true in a world of the affirmative where you increase the amount of criminals that are going and being thrown into jail because of the U.S. drug policy. We say the counterplan is the only way to stabilize the economy because it costs 10 times less. Also allows the government to reallocate their money in the future to combat drug cartels, but also to combat their unique instances that they face because of economic decline. Where the paper guys off is?
I put it up there.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's going to be a new sheet, which, surprise, surprise, is going to be kind of hungry. So that's like the new sheet and count plan are going to come first, then this ad. And then like her, I guess, solvency dump argument type thing, and then the management.
So view sheet, counter plan, disad,
New sheet, counter plan, this ad.
solvency arguments,
Solvency arguments.
advantage on advantage.
Then, anyone not ready? Ace of points, the interpretation of the counterplan text cannot include the entirety of the affirmative plan text. Again, the interpretation is that the counterplan text cannot include the entirety of the plan text. This becomes especially true in rounds whenever we're talking about a legislation, like the affirmative only has one choice, and that is to pass the piece of legislation. So it becomes like inevitable that we have to pass the entirety of the B. Subpoint is going to be the violation. The counterplan text includes functionally all of the affirmative, except with an exception tailored on to the end. The little one of this is going to be that this destroys competition because there's absolutely no paragraph of the affirmative whenever they're literally passing like 99% of the affirmative with one exception, and that functionally destroys the affirmative way to engage in the counterclaim because the little tune of this is that we only get severance terms whenever we try to engage in the theoretical, the debate about the theoretical competition of counterclaim because we only get severance terms. In order for us to actually test the competition, we would have to sever out a part of our app, which is probably bad for debate. The two subpoints going to be the standards of the first standard is picks are infinitely regressive. They can pick out of smaller and smaller things as time goes on, because justifying picks allows them to pick out of any one of the 12 provisions of the MURDA initiative, or even any one of the subsections of the 12 provisions. That's going to be bad because this kills education because it skews the discussion of the resolution away from the topic and away from the affirmative. It now becomes about the net benefit, which is a very, very small portion of the resolution and the affirmative ground, and it also independently kills fairness because there's no way for us to know which one they're going to pick out of. We can't prep for all 27 different possible net benefits that they might run of the counterclaim, so there's not a possible way for the affirmative to have any prep. The second standard is going to be that their offense solves all of the justifications for them running the counterclaim. They ran the net benefit as this said. They could have just run the net benefit as this said. That would have been simply that would have been enough for their LOC strategy. However, they're running the counterclaim independently to just steal affirmative offense. That's the only strategic reason to run the counterclaim, which probably indicates why it's bad for education. The third standard, or the third reason to prefer this interpretation, is it's not just hard debate, but it's also unfair debate. We can't argue with the counterclaim because the counterclaim is functionally the affirmative. That means there's no possible education in this round because we can't engage with the counterclaim. We can't engage in the counter advocacy. For us to actually generate offense off the counterclaim would be to generate offense off of our affirmative as well, which is probably bad. And we can't know more about the net benefit than they can. We have to study the entirety of the bill, or the entirety of the initiative, which, like I said, includes 12 provisions, whereas they can spend the entirety of the prep over one of the initiatives. So that means that there's no possible way for us to engage. Also, the little iron on this is going to be that negation theory means that they have to prove the entirety of the app is disadvantageous, where they agree with 99.99% of the affirmative, which means you're going to vote AF if you buy the counterclaim because it's indicative that the majority of the affirmative advocacy is a good thing. The subpoint is going to be grounders first. The subpoint is going to be voters. I think I mixed up a few words. The first voter is going to be ground. They obviously steal the entirety of the affirmative ground, and it totally kills MG strategy because we can't respond to this substantially because it is the affirmative. This is going to be uniquely bad because NG strategy is the only instance in which the affirmative has the ability to make responsible offense against the negative strategy. The PMR just is a bunch of very playing, and the PMC doesn't know what the LOC is going to be. The second voter is education picks literally collapse debate insofar as they destroy our ability to engage with the counterclaim in a substantial way and take away our ability to test functional competition. So that's super bad. Oh yeah. Also, air neg on theory. Air F on theory, because at the NPTE 2013, negatives won 67% of rounds, and they get the block, which means they're always going to be able to substantially overwhelm the affirmative, plus they get the responsive speech, which means that we go into the round without knowing what their strategy is going to be, but they always get the chance to respond to our strategy, which gives them the advantage. The ESA point is going to be that you should reject the team and not the argument. The first argument, the first justification for this is that we need punitive measures in order to assure that bad debate doesn't happen in the future, because we only get to debate this resolution once. However, their practices are going to carry over, so you need to punish them for running something that it causes in-round abuse. And the second argument under this is that this actually causes in-round abuse. Our strategy and time has already been skewed because we can't respond to the substantial entirety of the affirmative, so that's probably problematic. The in-round abuse has already happened. The F subpoint is that you're going to prefer competing interpretations. There are three justifications for this. First step, competing interpretations are going to be inevitable because we're always going to have to compare the standards between their initial interpretation coming out of the LOC and our interpretation in the theory shell, which means that insofar as we're comparing standards, competing interpretations is inevitable. You're always going to fall to that. But the second justification is going to be that reasonability allows for judge intervention, which is probably bad because that takes away the ability to debate from the debaters and hands it into the hands of the judge. The third one is going to be that at least the most fair and educational debate. All right, now onto this end. The first argument is that the plan solves whenever we take away the ability for police to militarize along the border. That probably means that violence isn't going to occur. Their impacts are just systematic violence. Their impacts are literally the war on drugs. First, you can cross upon the solvency coming off the first contingent that would indicate that we do feel bad for this, because the only way for the war on drugs is actually to carry out is if we continue militarizing the police whenever we give them things like armored vehicles and SWAT or military weaponry that allows them to carry out violence against carries out violence against the perpetrators. The second argument is that they don't have any solvency because they indicate that the way they're going to back is indicating a shift in policy. However, the murder initiative is always going to be seen as a way for us to militarize and increase our military cooperation with Mexico, which means that their independent pick isn't going to cause any sort of cognitive shift because the murder initiative is known for being a military operation. The third argument is that police militarization indicates, or the police militarization of the status quo indicates that we're not ever going to view drugs as a health issue, or at least the Capitol doesn't have the ability to solve for this, because we are always going to address insofar as drugs are illegal, we're going to view it as a problematic crime, and it is very profitable, the war on drugs. We're always going to be viewing this as a criminal issue instead of a health issue. The fourth argument is that any remainder of the murder initiative means that we're going to view the policy bad, the policy as bad, because the murder initiative is pretty substantially militarizing it against drug users. The fifth argument is that their solvency evidence indicating that this is a test case is probably bad because the test case has failed. There are two justifications for this. The first is that this is empirically denied. This policy has been in place for 7 years. However, their arguments about test case and how this is a test case for how we treat drugs probably should have already been triggered. And the second argument is that we've seen in the past 7 years that our militarization of the war on drugs has only increased, which means that their analysis probably bombed. Also, the sixth argument is that any remainder of the murder initiative is just going to continue funding continued funding. You can cross-apply the corruption analysis coming out of the PMC that goes entirely conceded. That's the entire uniqueness scenario for the first advantage, indicating that Mexico is pretty freaking corrupt right now. This goes absolutely conceded by the LOC, which means that any remainder of the murder initiative is going to appropriate some portion of this $2.3 billion to the Mexican government. That's always going to go back to cartels because Mexico is the third most likely country in the world to accept bribery. And then, you're not going to vote on the dissent. Anything else you want to cover?
Extinction outways.
Oh yeah, also, extinction outweighs, we have to be alive before we can evaluate the value of life and so on. Okay, so now on to their solvency arguments. You can group all of the essentially case terms that they read on the solvency. You can group all that together. Their link analysis is going to be pretty problematic because insofar as we remove 99% of the murder initiative, it's still going to be seen as a policy withdrawal. There's no specific indication or analysis as to why keeping this one piece of this one provision of the policy in place is going to be a significant indicator of a cognitive shift. So their link analysis on this is really bad. Don't let them make a new articulation dissing the MO, because that there's no substantial way to respond to that. Their articulation is simply because leaving this initiative in place, or leaving this part of the initiative in place, is going to cause a cognitive shift. But they don't they don't even breathe on the warrants in this issue. The next argument is that they indicate that the counterclaim is going to solve. Well, actually, is there anything else you want to solve? Okay, so then on to the advantage one, you can extend across the A sub point number 2, indicating that like the structure of the Merida initiative is going to be inherently militarized because it comes off of a framework of the Columbia initiative, which means that any aspect of the Merida initiative is going to continue along the thought of police militarization and the fact that the war on drugs is a military operation, which means that if they keep any of it in place, it's going to reappropriate these funds to military operations. Also, you can extend across like the internal scenario, which goes unaddressed, and on advantage student, they don't really argue this very well. So you can extend that across. We have the only like viable extinction scenario.
I'm just useless.
Yeah.
Counterplan, not the theory. The bare life or first advantage, whatever we're calling that.
Fair line.
1 second, let me find my sheets really quickly. I'm all disorganized. Alright, I said counterplan, then the first advantage, then our disad, then the theory stuff, then the final advantage.
Just once again, counterplan, advantage 1, disad, counterplan theory.
Yes. With the second advantage on the bottom.
The case dump, where is that?
I just put that under advantage 1.
Oh, okay, cool.
But it'll make sense what I'm doing when I
Gotcha.
go to that.
Okay, just tell me when you move to that thing, so I put it on the salt.
Okay. Is everybody ready? Cool. No permutations, odds, debits, or any offense on this flow into what can it's easy as bad as long as we win and risk that the plan is bad, that means you vote for the negative because we can resolve 100% of the affirmative. We just have to justify it on the theory page. I'll do that in a bit. Let's go to the case advantage. Oops, you dropped an independent case turn. The militarization comes to the prison system when we simply lock up drug abusers. That leads to people who do not want to be locked up, which means they go to the cartels to feed their addictions, which leads to the cartels getting more power because they get things like more drug mules to transport things like heroin, cocaine, and marijuana over the border. That means that they're able to gain more power, which improves the cartels. That actually leads to a nuclear bomb the size of a grapefruit being snuck over the border that goes into places like LA, killing hundreds of millions of people on damnation, but also it triggers Directive 17, which is a U.S. policy that says the U.S. has to respond to every single instance of nuclear deployment with more nuclear weapons, which leads to a global nuclear war. So we try to figure out what they do. Do not let the next speech respond. This is 100% dropped coming out of the last speech. I don't need to win over the rest of the case because the counterplan is able to resolve that. That's also an internal net benefit to the counterplan. Let's go to the dissent. All their arguments are non-starters on the dissent because simply defense. They don't have a single piece of offense on the dissent. You can extend across our ultimate impact of things like police brutality and the expansion of the prison-industrial complex in places like Mexico. Instead of treating drug abusers, we simply lock them up. They continue to key internal link that says it costs 250,000 pesos per year instead of the 25,000 that costs actually to treat people. If we win a risk of this dissent, that's also another reason to vote negative because we are able to resolve 100%